to these programs from Reach Beyond Australia. Life-changing radio.
You reach beyond to us.
Welcome to WaveScan, the international DX program, researched and written in Indianapolis by Dr. Adrian Peterson and in Los Angeles by Ray Robinson, and produced in the studios of WRMI Shortwave in Okeechobee, Florida. I'm Jeff White. This is edition NWS 895 for release on Sunday, April 19th, 2026. On the program today, radio comes to Australia. More of our conversation with Dr. Faisal Binbai of the Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union and Captain Kangaroo. In the early 2000s, our editor-in-chief, Dr. Adrian Peterson, wrote a series of articles under the strapline Reminiscing with the Radio about his recollections of early radio listening in Australia. Just over 20 years ago, in March 2006, one of these articles was titled Australia Gets Radio. Here's Ray Robinson in Los Angeles with that story.
Thanks, Jeff. Adrian's own personal memories of radio broadcasting in his hometown of Adelaide immediately after the end of World War II in 1945 prompted him to write about events 27 years earlier, immediately after the end of World War I. He wrote, "The war was over, troops were returning home, families were reuniting, difficult restrictions were progressively lifted, and technological development for peaceful purposes was resumed." This was the scene in Australia, and in many other countries also, at the beginning of the era when wireless became radio. During the war, the annual Royal Perth Show, always held in the autumn, was temporarily discontinued for the duration. This popular event was reintroduced just before the end of the war, and it attracted huge crowds of eager spectators. On the occasion of this first almost post-war show, wireless experimenter Wally Coxon staged a public demonstration of radio broadcasting with a transmitter in one pavilion and a receiver in another. The year was 1918, and this was the first public demonstration of radio broadcasting in Australia. In the eastern states, the first experimental radio broadcasting transmitter was constructed just 4 months after the first direct wireless communication from England to Australia. The enterprising Ernest Fisk was the managing director of AWA, and Fisk invited William Bostock, a decorated war veteran who'd recently returned to Civvy Street, to head up the project. Work began to build a radio transmitter in early 1919, using the newly available Marconi Q valve imported from England. Bench tests were made from this new transmitter during the month of March, and then it was ready for wider experimentation. One of the main uses of wireless transmissions had been for ship-to-shore communications, and so it was decided to install the new radio transmitter on a ship. There was a 14-year-old single-stack interstate passenger and cargo vessel plying the Australian coastline at that time called the Riverina, owned by Huddart Parker of Melbourne. Arrangements were made for the Riverina to carry the new little Q transmitter during its regularly scheduled voyages for a 3-week series of seaborne test transmissions. These test broadcasts took place during the month of April 1919. The output power was around 10 watts, and the operating frequencies were in what are now designated as the long wave and medium wave bands. The experimental broadcasts were successful, although of course there were very few receivers capable of tuning into the informal programming. At the same time, there was another single-stack steamer plying the Australian coastline, the 15-year-old Bombala, owned by Howard Smith, also of Melbourne. A second series of test transmissions using the same Q transmitter was carried out in the July of 1919. Clear signals were heard over the saltwater pathway at a remarkable distance, even as far away as Gabbo Island, more than 300 miles south of Sydney. Having proven the concept, the next event needed was a genuine public demonstration, and that was soon in the making. Ernest Fisk announced that he would address the Royal Society of New South Wales on Wednesday evening, August the 13th, 1919, and that he would present a live radio programme as a practical demonstration of the new medium. This event, as a historic first in Australia, was staged in the Royal Society's Hall at 7 Elizabeth Street in Sydney. A series of some 20 locally constructed loudspeakers with tin horns were all connected to the same receiver and strung from the ceiling. The Q transmitter was installed at AWA Wireless House at 97 Clarence Street in those days, and the 60-foot-long T-type antenna was strung on the roof of the same building. The programming for this first auspicious occasion consisted entirely of gramophone recordings played into a carbon microphone. At the appropriate timing during the Fisk speech, the national anthem came through suddenly and dramatically, a clear demonstration that radio without wires was indeed a reality. The transmitted signal had travelled in the heart of Old Sydney town from one main street to another, covering a distance of about half a mile. Meanwhile, down in Melbourne, AWA was planning another series of dramatic radio events. It should be remembered at this era that Sydney was the larger city, but Melbourne was assuming political importance as the de facto capital of Australia due to the fact that the federal parliament was headquartered in this city. The Australian Capital Territory, ACT, and the city of Canberra had not yet been surveyed. 2 Marconi speech transmitters were imported from England, and one was installed in the Brighton home of the local AWA